You already own a PV system and are looking for a simple solution for a battery system? Then today's video might be just what you're looking for. My name is Johannes, welcome to Booleland, and today we're talking about the new Anker Solix Solarbank Max AC. For those who haven't heard yet, it was introduced a few days ago. There was an event in Amsterdam, and I was invited as well, but I couldn't attend because I was on vacation at the time. Nevertheless, I followed it very closely, of course, and today we're going to talk a bit about what you can expect from the new Solarbank Max AC, who it might be suitable for and who it might not be the right fit for. In terms of design, it basically looks like the other solar banks you're already familiar with, which I've also presented here on the channel before. Apparently there are a few more features on the LED, but I'll show you those once I get my hands on the product myself. In any case, the device starts at 7 kilowatt hours of capacity and can be expanded up to 42 kilowatt hours. So you can already store quite a bit of battery in your garage or basement. What's special about it is that, unlike a solar bank or something similar, this is a pure AC product. That means the device is connected to your power outlet. Either you have a standard Schuko socket, or maybe you even already have a smart Wi-Fi socket. Then you just plug it in there, and you don't plug in any MC4 connectors or anything like that, as you might know from other balcony power plant battery systems. About the topic of Schuko plugs and Wi-Fi plugs, I'll go into more detail on that later. It's really just about how much of this battery system you want to feed into your household. There are a few technical limitations, and with a Schuko plug, it's usually 16 amps, and with Wi-Fi plugs, up to 20 amps are possible. And accordingly, you can of course achieve higher power outputs. Feed into the household. Still, you should have at least a 2.5 millimeter cross-section for your cables, where the Solarbank Max AC is connected. In principle, 3,500 watts are intended for this, but in Germany it is apparently limited to 3,000 watts. But regarding the output, meaning what it could feed into the house, 800 watts are set as the standard in Germany. But theoretically more is possible if you have unlocked it accordingly, which brings us back to the topic. PV system and battery system, or am I still talking about the balcony power plant? But yes, that's definitely quite interesting, and here you can achieve up to a peak output of 5,000 watts, and if you have two, it increases accordingly. We already saw this with the solar banks. When two battery systems are used, that is, the battery plus an additional battery, more output would be possible. That's also quite interesting in this context. Anker also introduced the Enk Intelligence or the Enk Voice Assistant. To what extent you actually need something like that, I don't know, but there was already this Kai Smart mode in the Solarbank and in the Anker Solix app. And ultimately it's there to help optimize your energy usage a bit, which becomes particularly interesting if you have a dynamic electricity tariff. If you don't have something like that and just have a regular electricity tariff, then all these intelligence features are pretty much irrelevant, because in that case you don't need to control when and how much is fed in. The smart meter takes care of that, and that's it. And otherwise the device has, as you would expect, IP66 certification and such, so it can be used outside at minus 20 degrees. Everything is built for that, so there will also be an appropriate heating element inside. So for winter, you don't have to worry about the device having any issues outdoors. I also find the topic of interfaces very interesting. That has always been the issue so far. Yes, they still don't have proper interfaces that you can access. And that's how it was, but now Denke has also introduced an open API support, and also something that allows you to use it directly with Home Assistant. So I'm really curious about that. There finally seems to be some movement in this area. And if you're active in the smart home environment, you'll notice this. With Home Assistant and Code Ads, you'll definitely be able to do a few things with it. The important question, how much is this going to cost? We're talking about a 7 kilowatt hour battery, or rather a 7 kilowatt hour expansion battery. And the recommended retail price is around 2,300 euros. The expansion battery is supposed to cost 1,800 euros. I deliberately say recommended retail price because, as we know, prices tend to drop pretty quickly. I think even now, at launch, some manufacturers are already offering 500 or 700 euros off, discounts or something like that. So just take a look for yourselves, but as I said, that's the recommended retail price, and that will also drop pretty quickly. If you break it down to the price per kilowatt hour, it's usually around 300 euros, or something in that range, depending on the price you get. So who is this actually worthwhile for, and from when does it make sense? And you might know this from many manufacturers. They always throw out numbers about how quickly you can save money and so on. I'm always a bit a bit cautious with these numbers and I like to take a look at them myself. So I just put together a little scenario for myself. I'll just show you right now an Excel sheet like this. Basically, let's assume we have a solar system and now we're getting an Anker Solix Solarbank Max AC with a 7 kilowatt hour battery and connect it. And then I can store my excess PV electricity in this battery. And it gets charged once a day, and then overnight, when the sun has set outside, it gets emptied again until the next day, so I can fill it up again. In this scenario, let's assume our PV system is sized large enough so that I can fill this thing up every day. That's, let's say, the perfect version, that I'd be able to fill this thing up every single day. In reality, of course, it doesn't look quite like that, but as I said, it depends very much on how large your PV system is dimensioned. And then, for example, I wouldn't feed the electricity I've generated there into the general grid where I get, 7 cents, but instead I would use this electricity myself. That was the ideal case. I consume all the electricity I produce myself. For now, I've set the price at 35 cents per kilowatt hour, and for feeding into the grid, 7 cents. If you have a very old feed-in tariff, of course, you have much higher prices for each kilowatt hour you feed in. But as I said, that's just how I've set it up for now. And then I looked at when, so to speak, all these investments would pay off. When, let's say, all these investments I made would be amortized. Because now I really only took the cost of the solar bank itself. No installation costs for the Wi-Fi socket or anything else, just like with all PV systems and battery systems. In the end, you're really not doing anything other than basically making an advance payment on your electricity bill. And with the hope that at some point you'll get back the money you paid for the installation. By saving money that would normally go to your energy provider. And for this scenario, I simply took the amount you would pay for a Solarbank Max AC, so that's 2,300 euros. And now I'll just put that money in the bank and get a return of 3% or 5%. That's not extremely conservative, but it's also not exaggerated. And if you just take a look at it, it does take a few years. Until, let's say, you've recouped your return, and of course that always shifts a bit depending on how expensive electricity is, how much you actually generate, and so on and so forth, but that was just an example. The PFM shows, depending on what kind of return we assume there, the break-even point where, let's say, you would earn more with the solar bank or have earned more than with the return and the savings would be around 10 or 11 years. And that also fits, I would say, within the usage period. They say these should be usable for at least 15 years. There's a 10-year warranty, and everything that comes after that you can basically pocket yourself. And that's just how it is with this time horizon. You really have to keep that in mind and not let yourself be dazzled. From the claims you read on manufacturer websites, like it pays for itself after 2 years or something like that. So in that respect, if you have a PV system and want to equip it with a battery system without having to involve an electrician in a big way, then this could definitely be something for you. If you already have a PV system with a battery system, then there will probably be other solutions available. But even there, you could theoretically add the solar bank, and what you would need is some kind of smart meter that the solar bank can access in order to determine how much energy it should feed into the household or not. As I said, I'll make a separate video about it as soon as I have it in use myself and have installed it. That's all for now. Got questions? Leave a comment below. Otherwise, I wish you a great day. Take care. Ciao, ciao.